Hey, welcome. You are listening to the Post Burnout Growth podcast with me, Alison, and Avril. Welcome.
Hi, hi there. Hey, Alison.
So, today's show, we're going to be chatting about why. What is your why, and why does it matter? Avril, what's that mean for you?
That's a really good question. And honestly, if you'd asked me this question 5 years ago, I would have no clue what why meant, what it means to start with why. Um, I first discovered the concept of why, of course, through Simon Sinek's book, Start with Why, but it was really at the start of my journey when I started training as a coach. At that point, I had just come through a pretty intense journey, coming out of burnout, coming out of PTSD, a long journey with trauma therapy, and I'd also had some post-traumatic growth coaching at that point. And really, I was presented with um, this journey point of, so what's next? What happens from here? And up to that point, I want to say very transparently, I had probably lived my life performing and being productive and hustling and meeting the very high standards that had been set for me throughout my, developmental years and social and cultural conditioning. But now at this point, I'd found myself with, so what is the why? And it really helped me come to terms with and to understand that at the very core of me, there is a sense of purpose, and that there is a sense of why do I exist? The sense of who am I now in this moment and who am I becoming, um, which is stripped off of all of the layers of, what I had done, the productivity. So yeah, it took me a fair amount of time to wrap my head around what it means to have a why, what it means to use that as to use the terms a North Star. But I love how it has sort of brought me home to a sense of looking within, to checking in with my own sense of purpose, and how that is expressed in the world. Again, through a constant sense of, drawing on my own self-awareness and putting in that piece of self-growth. But yeah, what does it mean to you, and how did you come to it, Alison?
It's really interesting listening to your journey with why. When I look back across my life, so I am almost at the 50 mark. So I look back across my life and recognize that actually my why was very small and quiet and whispery. And
Mhm.
over the last, let's say, 20 years, it's gradually gotten bigger and louder. And that has kind of very much speaks to, you talking about this, who am I being, who am I becoming? The sense of it
Mhm.
is a journey. It's a path of discovery. And for me, the why has taken on many shapes and forms in the sense of we talk about purpose a lot when it comes to why. And you
Mhm.
mentioned like a kind of a North Star, almost like a guiding compass. Like, what do you want your life to be about? What do you want your life to mean? Why is that important for you? But even outside of that is how are you living daily, and does that align with your why? Um, and recognizing that we can have a why
Mhm.
and we might be passionate about it, we might believe in it, we might be conscious of it, but we can easily not be living it. And so it's also been part of the journey to keep linking back to that why, to keep exploring it, discovering more and more as time's passed. What does this really mean for me? And why is it my why?
Mhm. 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 I love that, the essence of what you're sharing in terms of, and I'm going to draw on the work that you do so powerfully as well, that sense of inside out leadership. That sense of, I loved what you said there about linking back into, because it's one thing to know, and perhaps one thing to cultivate a conscious sense of, this is my why, this is where I'd like to go. But to have those constant checks with self, to go, is this evolving? Am I actually living this out? Am I expressing this why in the world? Or is this a lovely, fluffy thing I've created that's keeping me going, but I'm not entirely um I'm not entirely walking in terms of the embodiment of what the fly is. So I love what you've said there. I loved also what you said about it was a quiet why, and now it's a louder why. Can you share with me and with, those of us who are listening, well, what was that process like for you? How did that quiet why become a louder voice for you?
Yeah, that's so funny that you asked me that. Because we're here together in this post burnout growth podcast, and the growth post burnout and that why becoming louder are very much linked. And it's probably not a surprise to say that our life experiences shape us, they inform us, um, they direct us on what next action we are or aren't going to
Mm,
take. And so, having burned out twice, it probably wasn't until the second burnout that that why became louder, that that why became clearer. And when I speak about that why in an abstract sense, the why is I don't want anybody else to suffer the way that I have and not really understand or know what was going on and not really know who to reach out to and what to even tell them.
mm,
Because it's all very well telling people to reach out for help, but half the battle is not understanding what it is that you need help with because you're not fully clear on what's actually going on for you. So I think there's the demystifying of burnout. It was never talked about. I mean, I didn't know that that's what it was the first time around.
mm,
The second time around, that really amplified and made that why for me that, what's my purpose here? And that was an emerging purpose out of real struggle and, real suffering.
mm,
Um, because burnout is so multifaceted. Um, it's beyond, you know, being about toxic workplaces. It is also about us and who we are and what previous life experiences have had an impact on us that affect how we actually show up in the moment or don't show up, how we interpret what's happening to us, and whether or not that is something that cripples us or actually fuels us to move forward in new, positive, healthier ways and kind of galvanizes us. So there's
mm,
so many different factors going on, but I think my why became bigger the second burnout that I had because it was like you really need to sit up and pay attention.
mm,
Um, and it's funny, I was chatting on another podcast about this, about the fact that I'd had I've forgotten what the name of it is actually now, but it was at Westminster University in London. I had to wear
mm,
these nodes on my heart for about 3 days. And they were checking to see how good I was at recovery during the day, but also my sleep. And
mm,
on this podcast, we've been chatting about it because the host had also taken this test and they were saying how good their recovery was at night, but they didn't recover during the day. For me, mine was just a sea of red, be that during the day or at night. I wasn't getting the recovery, even at a physical energy level that I needed, but I didn't
mm,
pay attention. I wasn't, I was so on autopilot. I was just like, keep pushing, keep up, keep doing more, just keep going. I normalized everything that I didn't see it. And so again, there's this sense of a almost being on a spectrum of micro and macro events that have gradually led to this bigger sense of awareness, bigger sense of awakening that have led
mm.
me to that bigger, louder why. I don't know if
Yeah,
that explains or not, but that's how it certainly felt for me.
sure, sure. Thank you for sharing that. Um, What you said there about normalized, that really jumped out at me as well. And it was definitely something I recognized in my own experience in terms of so much of what had happened or not happened in the past had shaped what I had come to expect and what I had come to accept, both from for myself, within myself, and also from the environments that I was in or choosing to be in. And by the time I had arrived at the place of big burnout, which took me out completely, so I often share this quite transparently through all of the content when I'm speaking, is, it was a period of a good 2 years of being completely face to the floor, completely unwell. This wasn't just a blip in my mental health. This was a full physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, complete takeout. Um, I really did love the fact that I had to learn what burnout meant through that experience. And
Mm.
that is also what brings me to this Post Burnout Growth podcast and to the work we are creating together and to the community we are building together, is that I would not want anyone else to have this experience. And yet I know that many among us are already on that slow drip, on that slow burn, and or are in full burnout. Um, but yes, what you said about the, certain things becoming normalized. And when one is operating from that place, and when, that has become the default operating system, the being on autopilot, the thing I think the thing I want to share, and I've heard this from the lovely people I've had the privilege to work with, as clients. I often hear the sentence, is there all this, is there all there is for me? Is this it? Or this must be it, that sort of resignation of this is just how things are.
Mm.
And no matter if I, uh, you know, move across countries or change jobs, and this is a pattern that I see I've recognized in myself, and it took a while to recognize it, and I had to do it with the support of in both therapy and coaching. And but I see this also with clients, is often that sense of moving, environments, changing jobs, changing managers, changing relationships, trying to create the outward change, but something on the inside hasn't yet fully, arrived, shall we say, or moved into a place of awareness that there are certain patterns that are sort of in place within, that need checking out, that need moving around, that need addressing. Um, and that in sort of conjunction with then what's happening on the outside, making all of those pieces move together. I also loved what you said, and I definitely want to sort of bring that together in the context of why we're talking about why, is it really, I was able to arrive at my why, and have I still have like an evolving sense of it through being in, appropriate relationships, through being, through accessing appropriate support with, um, again, I talk about this quite transparently, having the trauma therapist that worked for me, that their modalities worked for me, that I was able to experience psychological safety, and feel like the risks I wanted to take, on the changes I wanted to make, there was safe space to talk about these things, but also to have that very powerful sense of, having what I was seeing and sharing reflected back to me, having my strengths acknowledged, and, so that I could move forward. Um, but yes, I will say that in terms of sort of shaping up my why and sort of empowering me to come to that place of purpose, um, it really helped to have the appropriate support. I could not have done this on my own. I would not do this on my own. And even now, I still work with, appropriate coaches to be able to, again, come to that place of awareness, and continually, um, going back to what we've been saying, for a while, is making sure that that purpose is expressed in a way that is true for me, that is aligned with my values.
Beautiful share. Yeah, this sense of why, and why this post burnout growth podcast for both Avril and I think I speak for us both, is if you've been listening today, we wanted to share a little bit of what's driving us to show up. And you can hear that we've both had fairly profound experiences when it comes to burnout, very multifaceted. And I think it's with that we have this real intention to, if you're listening to today's show, to kind of, spark some sense of not just awareness, but also hope in you that what you're experiencing is your experience. It's your unique experience. And whilst, others out there may not fully understand, there are those of us who will and who do, and that your experience is valid. Quite often we need others to see us in order to see ourselves and to acknowledge ourselves, and to be able to turn towards ourselves with that much needed love and support that we can give, even if that perhaps doesn't feel that that's quite imaginable or something tangible that you can do, but it absolutely is. And so if you are feeling alone, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling frazzled, if you're feeling just things are out of control, I hope today's podcast will start to give you a sense of that we're here for you, to share as much as we can, to inspire you and empower you. So today you've been listening to the Post Burnout Growth podcast with me, Alison, and Avril. And if you have enjoyed this, if anything's resonated, we'd love to hear from you. But also consider sharing it with somebody who also might just need to hear these words that we've shared today. So that's it for today, folks. Anything final comments from you, Avril?
Just to say thank you. That was a lovely conversation. And as Alison has so beautifully said, this is all about community. This is all about finding your little place in the world where you can listen to our voices. And hopefully they will bring you some comfort, but also a real sense of, that inner encouragement that if you choose to reach out and ask for help, please know that it is available to you. Please know that you are not alone in your experience. And you know what? The journey of burnout will bring you through to what is important to you, and it will bring you through to your joy. So thank you for listening to the Post Burnout Growth podcast, and we'll look forward to you joining us again soon. Bye.
Bye.